Hey, everybody. I'm Kim Reisman, and I'm the Executive Director of World Methodist Evangelism. And I'm sitting at my kitchen table on lockdown, just like most of the rest of y'all are. And I just wanted to bring you a word of encouragement. A couple of weeks ago, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, Zach Zamara, and he gave me a great analogy for what I think we're experiencing in the life of the church right now. He told me that one of the most effective ways to learn how to play chess is to learn without the queen. That's because the queen is the most powerful piece in all of the in the whole chess set. And frequently, because of that, we design all of our strategies for winning around the queen. But in reality, there's a whole lot of other pieces in the chess set. And if we learn without the queen, we learn how to use all of those different chess pieces effectively. Well, I think one of the things we've learned as a church is that in our chess set, the queen is worship, particularly our ability to worship together face to face in one place. And now that we can't, it's been a crisis for us because our strategies have always revolved around that. The reality, though, is the church has a lot of other pieces in its chess set. And over the course of history, in times of crisis, we have always used those pieces. I mean, we've always fed the hungry and clothed the naked and visited the sick and visited those who were in prison. We've always worked to bind up the wounded and to work for justice in our communities. In fact, history shows actually that the church tends to love best when things are at their worst. The church tends to love best when things are at their worst. And right now, things are pretty bad. And people are asking a lot of really deep, hard questions. And so it's time for the church to take out all of those other chess pieces to meet the needs during this crisis time. And one of the questions that people are asking in these days is, where is God? I mean, where is God in the midst of this crisis, in the midst of the suffering and the pain and the confusion and the fear? Where is God? Well, God is right here. God is with us. In the midst of all the suffering and the pain and the confusion and the uncertainty and the fear, God is with us. And I think we can see that most vividly when we look at one of the most powerful symbols of the Christian faith, and that would be the image of a naked and bleeding and suffering divine human being hanging on a cross. That sums up in one image the fact that our God understands suffering. Our God knows what it means to suffer and to be in pain. In becoming human in Jesus, God enters into the very depths of our humanity, sharing everything that it means to be human, even the worst of it. And God does it all for love's sake. Now, in Colossians chapter 1, the 16th verse, that tells us that through Jesus Christ, God created everything in the heavenly realms and on earth. He made the things that we can see and the things we can't see. Everything was created through him and for him. Now, while he was on earth, the man Jesus healed and he restored, he calmed storms, and he walked on water. But yet he didn't abolish all disease or all disaster. I mean, he saves us from our sins, for sure, but not from suffering and not from death. He didn't even save himself from suffering and death. Instead, he died naked on a cross. The cross is the way through. The cross is the way through in all times, but especially in these times. Because our crucified God enters fully into our suffering. And he enters fully into our suffering, not just for us, but with us. With us. And as followers of this crucified God, we are called to enter into the suffering of others as well, so that they might know that they're never alone. And so, as we carry our own portion of suffering, and as we make ourselves available to help others carry their portion of suffering, all of us might see more clearly the God who carries all of our suffering. Now, of course, suffering isn't the end of the story. As Christians, we are people of hope. We may be experiencing pain right now, but joy does come in the morning. And yet, right now, as we face these frightening days, I want to remind you that you're not alone. You're not alone, because our hope lies in the one who suffers with us and never, ever abandons us.